So why did my mother have more severe symptoms than my stepdad, even though they were both infected at the same time, and in some ways they were of equal health? It's been difficult to track down how she became infected because so many people became infected during that giant wave in December. But the main theory is that some neighbors had gone over to their house and they sat down at the table to go over something for a half hour, and that was it. Yet it took several days or even a week for my stepdad to show symptoms after my mother had already started to show symptoms. It turns out that COVID targets some blood types more than others. I had always thought this to be a conspiracy theory, but as I put in some more research, I realized that there are some credible institutions across the globe that have some real research related to COVID and blood types. Based on several studies, it turns out that people of blood type O have less of a chance of getting COVID, while people of blood type A have an even greater chance of getting the infection. Individuals with blood type O are between 9 and 18% less likely to have tested positive for COVID-19. And in fact, researchers found a higher risk of severe illness among individuals of blood type A, while at the same time they found a protective effect for individuals of blood type O. Blood type A was associated with a 45% increased risk of respiratory failure, while blood type O was associated with a 35% reduction of respiratory failure. Interestingly, blood type association is not explainable by other risk factors, such as obesity, diabetes, age, sex, ethnicity, and other attributes or comorbidities. SARS-CoV-2 seems to more easily latch onto the airway cells of people with blood type A when compared to other blood types. Respiratory epithelial cells line the respiratory tract from the trachea to the bronchi into the bronchioles and the alveolar sacs. Respiratory epithelial cells have proteins that contain sugar molecules. There's a possible explanation, but it's also where it gets a little weird. People of blood type A have A sugar antigens. People of blood type B have B sugar antigens. People of blood type O have neither A nor B sugar antigens. People of blood type AB have both A and B sugar antigens. I know this is a lot of information, but bear with me. It'll start to all come together. So this means that type A individuals have antibodies for B sugar antigens. Type B individuals have antibodies for A sugar antigens. Type O individuals have antibodies for both A and B sugar antigens. Type AB individuals have none at all. So what's the significance of this? Well, if an infected person sitting at a table of blood type B coughs, COVID will travel through the air bound to the B sugar antigens that were in the respiratory airways of the person doing the coughing. However, if another person sitting at the table of blood type O happens to inhale this, they will contain the antibodies for the B sugar antigen. Likewise, if an infected person of blood type A sitting at a table coughs, then COVID will yet again travel through the air bound to the A sugar antigens that were in the respiratory airways of the person doing the coughing. However, and again, if a person of blood type O sitting at the table inhales this, then they will contain the antibodies to help against the A sugar antigen. Now if we flip that around and the person doing the coughing is actually of blood type O, then they don't have neither the A nor the B sugar antigens, and they're not sending it out through the air with COVID. So they are effectively not sounding the alarm for the antibodies of the other people to mount a defense. Now it's important to note that this is just a theory, and thus far there are a few holes in this theory where things just don't add up. For example, this doesn't explain why individuals of blood type A are worse off than individuals of blood type B. Based on this data, they should be equal. Then last but certainly not least, this would also imply that individuals of blood type AB should be worse off than individuals of blood type A. But it doesn't seem to be the case. The reason is that individuals of blood type AB don't have the anti-A nor the anti-B antibodies at all, while individuals of blood type A have the anti-B antibodies. So logically, you would think that individuals of blood type AB would be the most likely to become infected, regardless of whether or not they have more severe symptoms. They simply would be the most likely to become infected. Again, that's not the case. Now getting into the symptoms and why they're more severe among individuals of blood type A once they actually become infected. Laboratory experiments revealed that part of the coronavirus called receptor binding domain, RBD for short, which directly binds to cells to jumpstart infection, also grabs onto unique molecules associated with blood type A. The SARS-CoV-2 receptor binding domain preferentially recognizes this blood group. Additionally, when it comes to blood type O, it is more resistant because individuals with blood type O have lower levels of proteins that promote blood clotting than those of other blood types. So fewer blood clots, which might be one explanation, might explain why overall people with blood type O have less severe disease. So what does this all mean? It means that, and even though we don't know all the reasons why, that individuals with blood type A both contract the virus more easily and have more severe symptoms. And this is irrespective of whether it's A positive or A negative, it's just A across the board. So now is where it gets a little weird. I wanted to see the factors that would cause an individual to have a certain type of blood type. I had assumed that if two parents would get together and have a child, and if the parents had two different blood types, the child would have at least one of the blood types of one of the parents. It's actually a little bit more complex than that, and sometimes different combinations of blood types can produce other blood types, but that's besides the point. That had led me to something else. I actually stumbled upon the prevalence of blood types per country. It turns out that the center of the world for the least amount of people with blood type A is China. And more specifically, we're not talking about the Mongoloid race, we're actually talking about the peoples of China and the population surrounding China. Now, when it comes to populations where there are the most people with blood type A, that would be Europe, or white countries, or more specifically, members of the Caucasoid race. It's a bit odd, and I haven't heard any mention of this, not even in conspiracy realms. We know that COVID is a man-made virus, and the US government helped to fund the lab that created it. We used to see this all the time on the news between Rand and Fauci and so on, right up into this current event in Eastern Europe. But would the US government fund a project that preferentially targets white populations? Yeah, I can think of some wild things, but it does seem unlikely, I'd have to admit. But I'll stop right there with that. The data speaks for itself. I can't find anybody talking about this. I don't know if people need to start talking about this, or on the opposite end, I don't know if I'm missing something and I don't know what I'm talking about. So if I am and you see something that I don't understand, please post in the comment below. But other than that, I'll leave that, let's call it conspiracy theory right there. But of course, when it comes to blood types, you shouldn't panic if you're a blood type A. And of course, you most certainly should not feel complacent if you're a blood type O. Being of blood type O does not mean you should take less precautions to protect yourself and your loved ones. So if we're in the middle of a COVID wave, you should still use that N95 or greater mask, no cloth mask, keep social distancing, use hand sanitizer and alcohol, and get a pulse oximeter. All these actions are proven to reduce the risk of severe illness among all blood types. You can watch my previous video on pulse oximeters, and also the story of how I lost my mom. If you like this video, give it a like, and subscribe if you're new here. My channel is typically about tech and finance and personal finance, making money online and so on. But I do have a series about COVID-19 where I try to find information that might be helpful to us, that are not generally known. Things are not generally known to the public, so to help us in our battle against it. Also follow me on LinkedIn. I'm active there. I post there all the time pretty much. Take care and be safe.